Well, hello there, and welcome to My Life as a Landlord. I am Dr. Jen, and this is the final episode of our tenant screening series. I'm so incredibly proud of the work that we've done over the last 5 weeks. And as you know, if you've seen our library, the library at My Life as a Landlord is quite extensive. We are actually well into the 200 episodes. So if there is something that you wanted a deeper dive done. Yeah, I guess that works. Check out the library because chances are I've already done it. Or if I haven't done it, shoot me an email, learn@mylifeasalandlord.com or any of the social media outlets, including YouTube. Check it out because I will do a deeper dive. If you ask the question, I can do it. So we've covered everything from marketing your property, decoding credit reports, running background checks, verifying rental histories, navigating tricky logistics of move-in dates, and animals. Today, we put the puzzle together. We're talking about the final, most crucial steps of making the final decision, legally closing the loop with applicants and transitioning them from potential tenant to onboarding. Because finding the perfect tenant is only half the battle, you start the relationship off on the right foot if that is what ensures they stay perfect for the years to come. So what you want to do, and this is very interesting here because you how to avoid making decisions based on gut feelings is you use a scoring rubric. And I personally do this myself. It's pretty amazing to do it. But this is the secret weapon of professional property managers is you use the same scoring for every single applicant. Are they missing stuff? Did they score high? Did they score low? You create a simple point system based on your written published criteria. It's very simple. So for example, you give 3 points for an income ratio over 3 times the rent, 2 points for 2.5 times over the income ratio over the rent, and 0 points for anything less than that. You give points for credit back brackets. So for example, 3 points for over 700 score, 2 points for anything somewhere in the sixes, and anything less than that, you give them a 1 or a 0. You give points for positive landlord references, steady employment, verification of references. You deduct points for late payments, short employment tenure, missing rental history, or a history of lease violations. Now, when you score applicants objectively, the best candidate naturally seems to rise to the top. This completely removes personal bias and protects you from discrimination claims. So let's look at an example. Of course, a landlord in California had 2 applicants for a highly desirable apartment. Applicant A was a charming young couple who brought the landlord cookies at the showing. Applicant B was a quiet, single professional who barely spoke. The landlord wanted to rent to the couple based on quote unquote vibes, but when they ran the rubric, applicant A scored a 12 due to a spotty rental history. Applicant B, the quiet individual, scored a perfect 20. The landlord rented to applicant B, avoiding a potential fair housing lawsuit and securing a flawless tenant that probably was low maintenance. Now, let's talk about how to legally say no. Denying an applicant is never fun, and it always makes the landlord be the bad guy. But unfortunately, it's a necessary part of the job. The key is to be prompt, professional, and compliant. If you deny someone based on information on their credit or background report, you must provide an adverse action notice or some kind of written notice to them. And that is something that right now, this is based on the US side. We don't particularly do that in Canada, but it's always a good idea to do that anyway. But speaking of which, in the US, this is mandated by the Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA, and it tells them which agency provided the report and how they can dispute the errors. In fact, what I normally do is if I'm going to deny someone based on their credit report, I give them the credit report. If they don't already have it, sometimes they do. And I say, are you aware this is on your credit report? Because oftentimes applicants will either run your credit, or in Canada, the landlord runs the credit. The applicant has not looked at their credit recently. That happens a lot. So I will tell them, hey, are you aware this is going on? Unfortunately, because of this, we can't move forward. So in Canada, while the specific FCRA form isn't required, like I said, provincial privacy laws still dictate that you should inform the applicant if their credit report was the reason for the denial, allowing them to correct their record, which is exactly what I do anyway. So that's how I do it. But keep your denial brief and entirely neutral. Your script could be something like, thank you for applying for the property at X address. After careful review, we're unable to approve your application at this time because it does not meet our minimum criteria for verifiable income or however you want to do credit rating, etc. Never say, I didn't just get a good vibe, or I think the apartment is too small for your family. You got to be careful in that. Always tie it back to your written criteria. For example, good old Toronto, landlord in Toronto denied an applicant who was self-employed but refused to provide bank statements. The denial simply stated, application denied due to failure to provide required income verification outlined in our screening criteria. Speaking facts, right? Simple, legal, unarguable. Now, it's really important that you document stuff, right? There is a saying in property management, if it isn't in writing, it didn't happen. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've said that once or twice on this show. Keep a file for every single applicant you screen, whether you approve them or not. You keep their application, your scoring rubric, any reports you pulled, and you store them securely, as well as a copy of the approval or denial letter. Store this securely to protect their privacy and retain it for the legally required period in your area. In the US, statute of limitations for fair housing complaint is generally 2 years. So keeping records for 3 to 5 is best practice. In Canada, human rights complaints generally must be filed within 1 year, but keeping records 2 to 3 years is advisable. I have all kinds of records all over the place. And the reason I do that is because I have a high number of tenants who boomerang. That's my term. When I have a tenant, a former tenant who's moved out, they've moved on, they've done something else, and then they want to come back. Well, guess who they call first? They call me. So what I do is I bring over their last application and I say, I'm betting things have changed. Can you please update this, this, and this? And we update it, or they just do a new application. But that's typically why I do it. I have actually a very high number of boomerang tenants who come back and rent to me a second or even a third time. That's kind of cool, right? Okay, I know a landlord in Texas who was audited by Housing and Urban Development after they denied an applicant, a denied applicant claimed racial discrimination because the landlord had a meticulously kept file showing the applicant was denied solely because their income was 1.5 times the rent, while the approved applicant had 3.5 times the rent. The case was dismissed immediately. Documentation is your armor. Onboarding your new tenant is probably one of the most exciting and scary things all at the same time. You finally found them. You ran the rubric. They scored a 20. You approved them. Now what? Generally, the screening process is entirely wasted if you have a terrible onboarding process. Remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. So send a clear, enthusiastic approval email. Congratulations, you're approved. We are thrilled to have you, thrilled to welcome you. Here is the link to the lease, your move-in date, and instructions for paying the security deposit. I call it the welcome email. So you want to provide a welcome packet before they even move in. Outline exactly how to pay rent, how to submit maintenance requests, maybe where the water shutoff valve is and an emergency contact info for sure. You want to set the expectations immediately. A well-onboarded tenant is a tenant who respects your property, pays on time, and feels value. Make sure that you are engaged in all of that. So let's look at a Canadian example of this. A landlord in Calgary, Alberta provides a winter move-in checklist for new tenants, detailing how to set the thermostat to prevent frozen pipes and where to put snow shovels. This proactive onboarding prevents thousands of dollars in damage every single year. I am super happy that you have joined me this entire time, all 6 episodes for tenant screening. You know, this can be one of the most apprehensive parts of being a landlord, is picking the right person. Is this going to make sense for you, for the property, and is it going to make sense for them? So make sure that you do your homework and reference anything else in the library to support your tenant screening. So that's a wrap on our tenant screening series. By treating marketing and screening as one integrated system, using objective criteria and documenting your steps, you will dramatically reduce your stress and increase your profits and hopefully have longer-term tenants. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found this episode and this whole series helpful. Consider sharing this with another landlord, another tenant, or leaving a comment or review. I'm sure you know somebody who has got some anxiety over tenant screening. Today, I'm recording this episode in Powell River, BC, right outside my new RV park. If you want to see what we're building, check out pinetreecommunity.ca. Why do I say the location at every episode? Because real estate takes you places. Where do you want real estate to take you? Join me next week for episode 232, where I have a very special guest, Marcin Droz, who reminds us that context matters more than opinions. I'll see you there.